So we had a lot of reading this morning. We're going to have some when I'm done here. We're just kind of taking in what it is this day. This is the day that we synchronize with the Bible story. In fact, our early service, right now, is going to look like our late service, here in a couple hours. Pretty much the same thing. We're all synchronized. We're getting on the same page, and we're going to read the exact same things. And I hope that you heard in your readings all the fear. Jesus was going to be betrayed by Judas, and what's Judas going to do? He's going to look for a time away from the crowds. Jesus tells the disciples to pray, because Satan is actively looking for them. Peter denies Christ. Pilate hands over Christ. Even the religious elite who want to execute Christ. All of this is because of fear. Judas is looking to do this at a quiet place where there are no crowds because he fears the crowds. The disciples should pray because Satan is after them. What a scary prospect that Satan would specifically target you. Peter is going to deny Christ because he's afraid of the authorities and what they're going to do. He's afraid of what they're doing to Jesus, and he doesn't want to have that happen to them. Pilate hands over a man that he understands to be innocent because he's afraid of the people revolting against him, and the religious elite are afraid of losing their power, and so they want to kill Jesus. Fear controls all of us. It's a great motivator. It happens in our life, and we have to deal with it. Just a little bit ago, there was a story about an Uber driver who goes off into the world and decides to kill everybody. If you were alive around in the 90s, you know the term going postal, right? That was a thing that happened. And even today, even things that we take for granted sometimes, like our water, apparently if you live in Michigan, you can't take for granted. And we do this, right? Who puts on their seatbelt? Who has auto insurance, or health insurance, or life insurance? Anybody have a pistol in their home but haven't gone hunting in years? Right? Why do you have that pistol in your home? You eat low-sodium diets, high-fiber diets, got to get your veggies, right? What are you doing? You're out of fear or fear of what would happen if you don't pay attention to your health acting. Fear of missing out. That's a real thing in today's world. With all the tweets and the Facebook connections, if you're not in on the thing going on, you might have this fear that you're missing out on something really great. This is a problem, an epidemic among our young people. Just ask one. Fear of embarrassment. How many of you would have danced around the church with me this morning? I have some nervous giggles. Okay, well, good, because I'm doing it in the late service, so. How much does fear control your life? Really, if you think about it, how much do you give fear control of your life? At least a portion, if not a majority portion. I don't know what that is, but my question leads to this. Do you fear God? The Bible tells us clearly over and over and over that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, it's not a popular thing to talk about fearing God. But the question is not, do you fear God? It's not like, should you fear God? We know that in the Bible, you will fear God. When people encounter God in the Bible, they fall down on their face. They hide. They become like lumps on a log. They say, hey, I wish I was dead rather than meet our Lord. This is why I say that if you're going to go see Jesus, you should probably have your Depends on, because you're going to need them. Our God is an awesome and amazing God. And when people say that they would prefer death rather than being in the company of God, it makes us realize how truly powerful God is, and we forget that. We forget that God is the biggest thing of all, that death isn't bigger than God, that death is just one of the things, and that the thing that we should fear is God. But we tend to fear death more than we fear God. And we hear it in our Bible story, and we'll hear it when Jesus goes through what will be the Passion story. They ask him, hey, if you're the Messiah, if you really are as powerful as you say that you are, save yourself. Right? Because if you're the Messiah and you have power, then you wouldn't want to die. That's the line of reasoning there. And because you're the Messiah, you can save yourself from that death, which is obviously more important than anything else. You can avoid death. And if you have power, you can do that. And we have power, and we do exactly that on an everyday basis. First of all, we have lots of money. None of us have starved. When's the last time any of us starved? Probably never. That's a wonderful thing. In fact, most of us spend money on like organic things, right? Got to get your organic bananas and your organic kale. Eating kale? Why are you spending money on kale? Kale smoothies? Really? Yeah, that's happened. My wife makes me eat quinoa. Why do we do this? We do this because they're whole grains. And why do we do that? Well, because we can. Because we have money. And this money we can use to buy better food, because we understand that with better food you can have a better life. You can have a healthier life. You can have a healthier existence. It's just one example of how money is power. It also allows us and many other people to have health insurance. If you have health insurance, you have doctors. What a wonderful thing. There's a whole program called Doctors Without Borders, whose job it is to go into places that don't have doctors. But we have doctors because as a society we can support them. Our nation is so rich that we just take for granted that we're going to have fresh water. And when we don't, it's a big news story. And we understand that our air is going to be clean. We don't have to worry about diseases. We don't have to worry about sickness. These things in our life we take for granted. Do you know that if you go throughout the world, there are American military bases in other nations all throughout the world? There isn't a single other nation who has a military base in America. Do you know why that is? Because we're that powerful. We don't need anybody's help. We go and help other people. That's how powerful our nation is. We don't have other bases because nobody's coming to our aid. We don't need it. We are an amazingly powerful nation. And so when Jesus does something just as stupid as accepting death, then we have to call it silly. We have to call it weakness. We have to look at that and say, well, if you are so powerful, how could you walk into death willingly? And the answer is, the only answer could possibly be, because Jesus knows God the Father. Jesus properly fears God. And when he properly fears God, then he's got all his priorities in order. Could you imagine if Jesus decided that all of a sudden he wasn't going to do that? Oh, God's a big teddy bear up in the sky. I'll get around to it. He's my genie. He's not going to make me have to go on the cross. I can just tell him I don't want to. I met this really great girl, Mary. She's pouring fat all over me, and that was just awesome. And we really, hit it off. So we're off to go ski in the Alps. I'll catch you next year. Well, wait. Don't you need to be doing something for me? Aren't you here to die? And Jesus knew that. But it's more than just a death. It would have been one thing if it was just a death. It would have been a good thing if it was a death. It would have been a proper thing if it was just a death. It would have been a noble thing if it was just a death. But it wasn't just a death. It was humiliation. His friends turned on him. His friends turned out to be frauds. Yeah, I love you. Like, these are worse than Facebook friends, these disciples. As soon as Jesus got into any kind of trouble, they were gone. Denied him. Denied knowing him, having anything to do with him. They left him. Total facade. Total hypocrites. And of course, then they stripped him. And they mocked him. Put the crown of thorns on him. They put the crown of thorns on him because it hurt him. That's torture. But also, they wanted to humiliate him. Oh, you have a crown, you're a king, here's your crown. They put clothes on him. Listen to it. They'll put clothes on him to humiliate him more. And then they'll strip him naked. And then they'll take the clothes that he did have. They'll whip him. They'll beat him. They'll deride him. They'll put him in prison. And this guy's not getting 3 square meals. Our Lord doesn't get a last meal. The last thing he gets to eat is sour wine, which would make someone throw up if they were to eat it. They decide that, hey, you know what? It's not enough just to kill this guy. Because they could have done that. It would have been easy just to off with his head. I know this is gruesome, but this is where we are right now. No, they decided to go worse. They decided they're going to put him on a cross, which is another way of humiliating him. Naked, exposed to everybody. His mother, his friends, anybody who would have called him Lord. Whipped, bleeding, emaciated, hanging on a cross, which kills you slowly, more torture. You drown. That's how you die on the cross, from the inside out. All your weight pushes in on your insides. All the fluids build in your lungs until you can't breathe anymore and you drown. That's how you die. Jesus drowned slowly. It's not like he just died. He had to go through all of this. Nobody goes through all of this unless they have a real clear understanding. And let's be very clear here. Jesus asked to not go through this. We think of him as some kind of a God up in the sky that can just handle anything. But in that Garden of Gethsemane, he says, I don't want this. I don't want to have to go through this. Tell me, Lord. Tell me, Father, there's another way that I can get out of this. But not my will, but yours be done. And so Jesus is so at ease when he walks in front of Pilate, and he walks in front of Herod, and he walks up to his cross, because he fears God. Because he knows what's really to be feared is not death. That paradise will come, not because of the world, but in spite of it. And he never takes his eyes off the one way, the one truth, and the one life.